Hey, 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 it's Andrina here and my lovely co-host.
It's Tasha.
Thank you. You are listening to Faith, Grit and Grace again. This is like episode 5, so I'm glad you're still with us this far in. So we are continuing with our series on the wait, and the topic of today's episode is when the wait wasn't what you expected. So when you're waiting to meet somebody and it doesn't quite turn out the way you expected, what do you do? All that coming up on Faith, Grit and Grace.
1, 2,
3, 4. Yes. So when the wait isn't what you expected. First of all, thank you so much for joining us again. You know that we are on all the popular platforms. So I hope you've subscribed, that you've liked, that you've shared, that you've commented. Please let us know if you like what you're hearing. Rate us if you can rate us as well. And please also leave some comments. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about in the future. We absolutely love hearing from you all. So if you tuned in last time, you know that I spoke about my history, when the wait turns to heartbreak or to grief. And I shared some of the things that I had gone through in the past. And I hope you were inspired and blessed by that. It was a difficult episode because we were talking about grief, but I'm still standing, but by the grace of God. And I thank you all for your positive comments and your messages and your love and support. I really am grateful for that. So now this week we wanted to talk about have it a little bit more lighthearted. Yes. So this is going to be an 18 plus podcast or maybe 16 plus, Please. But there's going to be some things on this podcast today that are younger ears. Yeah.
Put the children in the other room.
Yeah. So we're all adults. We're all grown-ups here. So we're going to really talk about some real things that people are going through. So we look forward to you joining us for that. But first of all, I want to start. Tasha, I want you to tell us a story that you were telling me, because we're talking about when you maybe wait for a spouse, and some of us have been waiting for years and years and years to meet the one. And then once you get married, things just aren't how you planned them to be in your head, or they aren't what you expected. So share with me the story that you told me.
The story was told to me by my godmother. Basically, it's, sometimes we wait. And back in the day, marriage was really pushed. Yeah. Now people are like, you know what? Let me travel, let me get my education, and then I'll think about marriage. But back in the day, marriage was really pushed. You wanted to stay, pure until you were married. And it was this particular young lady who was adamant that she was going to do it the right way. And so anybody who was interested in her, it's not dating like what we date and get to know people. It's courtship, because it's leading to marriage. And yes, I am waiting until I get married. And you're like, waiting? What do you mean by waiting? Waiting to have
sex. Yes, waiting to do the deed.
To do the deed. To consummate
the marriage. Thing. That's right.
So she waited until they got married. They got married. She woke up the next day and he was nowhere to be found. And she's never seen him again.
What?
Up until this day. He married her to prove a point that I wanted you and I'm going to get you. So he played the fiddle. He married to her. Obviously they probably consummated the marriage that
he wouldn't
night.
Have left until he consummated.
And he left. What? And he went to the States. And she never saw him again. Eventually, I think, divorce papers were filed or whatever. But that was the heartbreak that she had to suffer through. So imagine doing it right. And you're thinking in all your might, that this person is the love of my life. We're gonna have the picket fence and the 2.5
family and the children and
the dog.
Yeah,
and it was a scam.
I just don't get it. So he basically, because she'd been so resolute in her, I'm not going to have sex.
Not going to have sex until she was married.
So he was like, okay, I'll show you. I'm going to go through this whole courtship.
Yes,
I'm going to wine and dine you, romance you, and then I'm going to take your virginity.
Yep.
and then I'm going to leave.
And he left.
What a wicked somebody.
Wicked man.
And I mean, okay, we always say there's two sides to every story. So
that was her side.
That was her side.
If you could find him.
Yeah.
If you heard this story before you find him, we'd like to know his side.
Please, yeah, we're happy to have him on the podcast. Come join us on Faith, Grit and Grace. You can tell your side of the story.
Listen.
But I mean, you just ask the question, are there actually people out there who do that kind of thing? And I think it's reminiscent of those con men who play the long con. So these love rats, and so when you're waiting and you meet somebody who's amazing, and some of these con men marry people, or they're in long-term relationships with them, and then at the end of it you just realize that all they wanted is your money, or they've stolen your identity, or they've ruined your credit, and what do you do? I think that is why you've really, really, really got to be discerning, because without discernment, without the Holy Spirit's discernment, and
how do you know when it's for real? Like when somebody says to you, oh, God says that you're my wife, or God says that you're my husband, like
listen, when I've had that before, and I usually say, well, when God tells me the same thing, I'll let you know, because it's just like that. If that was the truth, then I would have confirmation. Right now, that's not confirmed. But so we have to be so careful. I know I was watching a program and there was a lady who was in a long-term relationship. So it's not like, when you meet somebody online and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, please, can you give me £500 to, whatever. This woman had actually met the person in person. They'd had pictures. They'd gone on holiday. He knew her family and everything like that. And then he was just taking money from her. She borrowed money from family, from friends, from her son's wedding fund. She borrowed all this money, and then it was her son that said to her, do you know what, Mum, I think we need to look at the bigger picture here, and this man is a scammer, and he actually went to prison for it and everything, because he literally had just scammed her. But she said very candidly, she said, you know what, sometimes I still miss him, because they had that relationship. He was meeting that need, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And sometimes that's why these love scams work so well, because
they play on your emotion.
So you think you love that person, and you're just there building a life together, and they're actually just taking advantage of you. So we would definitely say, please be careful. And it's a hard one, because obviously if you are starting to build with somebody and they need some financial support, if you have it, you might be thinking, well, we're going to be together and whatever, but please, I think do your due diligence.
I think you need to put something in writing, because I wouldn't say that I've been scammed out of thousands, but I was dating someone way back in the day, and it kind of had tethered off, kind of fizzled out, but we were still friends. And he said to me, it's a matter of life and death now. I'm that kind of person. I love to help people. However I can help you, I'll help you. So you tell me that. I'm running to help you. And I had sent the person, I think it was like $1,500. That's in Eastern Caribbean dollars. So I'm trying to do the math in pounds.
Quick math. I can't even help you, honey.
I don't.
That's okay. Maybe somebody can leave a comment on what the exchange rate is today.
So anyway, I'd sent him the money because something of rent, and he had a business, and split with the partners and something money, whatever. Sent it, and the understanding was that the person would pay me back. Obviously, to this day. And there have been times in my life I'm like, should I text him still and say, remember, the statute of limitations haven't run out on my $1,500. When am I going to get it back? But I do remember when I was moving here to the UK, and I said to the person, you know what, some time ago I'd lent you this money. I didn't have any timeline on it or whatever, but I would really like to get that money back, because I don't know when next I'm coming back to the Caribbean, closing off all my accounts, whatever. The person get vexed with me. all of a sudden,
audacity.
I'm the enemy because I'm asking back
for the money
my
that
money.
you owe me.
But when you asked me, I never hesitated.
No.
I took up my checkbook and I went and I sent the money quick time. So listen.
So yes,
out
yeah.
there, you
and it's the people
be
that
careful.
have it's the people that have the purest hearts and
You get
that
taken
just get taken
advantage
advantage of. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tempt fate, but I am like, to be scammed, you really got to have money. I don't have no money, so if you came to me to try and ask me to borrow like £5,000, I'd be like, listen, brother, I'm praying for you. I will pray for you, and I will drop you to the bank to apply for a loan. I ain't got that money to give you.
And you know what? You live and learn though, because
do.
in this waiting season, I've had somebody I was talking to, and I don't know if the person said it out of joke, but just the mere fact that he said that to me and having gone through that previous thing is that, the person wanted £3,000. I was like, I know you're lying. That's what I was thinking in my head. Like, I know you're lying. So I'm like, you can get a loan for that or whatever. It's
I
like,
wish you all the best.
I prefer to get it from your child. It was bad for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like,
no. And those are the things we've got to have, those little warning signs going off. Slightly going off topic, but it is related to this, and I want to ask the
Still in
question.
the wait.
Yes. Prenuptial agreements. Now, they're not really that valid in the UK in terms of,
not.
before you get married, signing a contract to say, this is mine, and then
That's
if
yours.
we split, that's yours. No, I don't think, they're not, I don't think, I think you can put something into place, but I don't think they're as legally binding as in the States.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts on them? Would you want one? Would you be offended?
I don't have nothing
if
to protect at this stage.
Would you be offended if he asked you for one, especially if he had money?
I would say yes and no, but as you get older, you get wiser. Yeah, for the fact that if it's for somebody with children, let's say like both you and myself, we both have children. So let's say that I have a policy or I have a trust or I have a bank account with an X amount of dollars in it. I want to make sure that I secure something for my children, because you can't always trust that if something happens to you, whether it's a divorce or death, you can't always trust that your partner is going to do the right thing. So in that case, I would say put things into writing, especially if you have children, so that even if you're gone, even something happens, you're sick, whatever it is, that
they're taken care of. I agree completely, and it's something that I have been thinking about, because you do think, if I was to get married and to join my life with somebody, if God forbid, well, we know it's all going to happen one day, but when I go, I'd want to make sure that my daughter has everything that she needs, and all my assets don't go to him. And then, as you said, you just don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So it is something that I thought about. And what would you say to the people, and let's take death out of it, let's just say in case of a divorce, what do you say to the people who would say no to a prenup because it's like you don't have any faith that the marriage is going to last or that it's going to work, and you're just tempting divorce? You kind of, if you have a prenup, you're kind of saying, well, if it doesn't work, there's an out.
Yeah, I guess I would have said that before. But as I said, just sometimes you just got to use wisdom. You're not saying I'm marrying you to get a divorce, but you're just saying that in the likely event that something happens, that whoever that loved one is sorted.
I think in the unlikely event that something happens, it's sorted. Yeah,
it's sorted.
I agree, and I don't have no intention of getting divorced when I get married.
No. We're in this together.
Come on, listen, I've been waiting too long for you. No, you're coming, you're not getting away. But anyway, but I do think wisdom speaks about making sure that you've protected your assets, because a lot of people who get married have no intention of getting divorced. It's not what you go into doing, but then it happens.
That woman, she probably thought that's it for life, and then the man up and left you the very next day.
Absolutely. So yeah. All right then. Well, let us know what you think about prenuptial agreements. I'd be really interested to hear. Right then. So, another part of when the wait isn't what you expected, today we're talking about when you get into a marriage or you've been waiting and you finally meet the person that you think is the one, and then it just doesn't kind of go the way you planned it to go. So what about those people who get married, wait, do it the right way. We don't believe in sex before marriage, so they wait. And then after they get married, there's problems in the bedroom. So those problems could be anything from she may not enjoy it, or she may not be able to have sex, or he may not be able to get an erection, or or they just don't seem to be sexually compatible. And one of those things in that is, and it's something that we have to talk about because this is the world that we live in, there are some people who are quite experienced sexually.
Yeah.
And there
but
are
we
some
all
people,
didn't wait.
Yeah. And there are some people who are not as experienced, or maybe even virgins going into a marriage.
Yeah.
So what happens if somebody who is very, very sexually experienced or has some experience marries somebody who isn't, and they feel unfulfilled because this woman isn't doing or man, if it is the person, is just not able to do all the things that they're used to in bed, or that person, because they're so inexperienced, don't feel comfortable doing all of these things. What do you do?
Well,
girl.
I need to drink some water. I think that we grew up in a time where, is it taboo that I'm looking for? When we didn't speak about these things.
No, we didn't.
And a lot of people, their marriage has suffered, and they've suffered silently because it's like, you've told me to wait, and I have waited. Yes. Now I've read the books.
Yes.
I've watched the TV, even though I wasn't supposed to be watching that. I was watching the Netflix thing or whatever. You're listening to podcasts because there are podcasts all over, and people are talking about topics for really now. You turn on your radio, the music is playing, and they're very sexual lyrics, whatever. So you can use your imagination. So I have all of this foreknowledge.
Yeah.
But I'm coming with all this expectation, and my expectation has not been met.
Yeah.
What do? Do I speak to him, or do I suffer in silence? Is he feeling the same way that I'm feeling? What's going on? And are we able to talk about it and communicate about it without somebody getting hurt and feeling like, well, you're the problem, not me?
Yeah.
So listen,
it's a difficult one. I know of a lady who was in church all of her life, waited till she got married before she had sex.
Yeah.
And she actually struggled to perform or to have sex with her husband because in her head for so long
you're told not to do
this
it.
Is wrong.
Sex
this is
a bad thing.
Yes,
and that's a lie because God, when He created the world, He said it was good.
Yes, and it's
everything is good.
Yeah. And sex is good in marriage, and it's good within marriage. But because we we're trying to encourage people to wait and
you're going to burn.
Don't have sex before you get married. So a lot of times, once you get into marriage, it's difficult to get out of that mindset that
and
actually
I can't please this man, or you can't please
or they
this
can't
woman.
please you.
You're being too worldly. You're being a lady of the night, or you have a sex demon because every minute you're harassing me.
And that's it.
Kind of thing.
And a lot of people will use these types of issues as a justification for why they should have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
So how are we going to know that
in a bag?
Yeah, or don't you
whatever till you try it.
Absolutely. So why am I going to wait and then we're not sexually compatible? I've heard the argument so many times, but I did hear recently on a podcast, and it did really it reassured me, and they said you can actually test your sexual compatibility just through kissing. So
you were watching the same thing I was watching.
It was the one you sent me, Tasha. It was the one you sent me. Because I thought to myself, because they said in that podcast that actually you don't need to go through the whole motions of having sex, but your chemistry and your intimacy and
just
your ability to meet each other's needs can be told through a kiss. And I thought, well, praise God.
But Sister Andrina, what happened to those people who don't even kiss until the wedding?
Well, listen,
so how they are gonna know?
I can't help you. No, and this is the thing. Some people do feel that they've been called not to kiss or have. So, and I think what we need to do is make it very clear that just because you wait, and you've kind of alluded to it, just because you wait, just because you do it the right way, just because good sex is not a reward of waiting.
Yeah.
It's not a reward of doing it the right way and doing it God's way. There is no guarantee that the sex is going to be mind-blowing once you get married.
Might not even happen at all.
Well, there you go. And I heard, and I obviously can't speak from personal experience because I'm not married yet, but a lot of couples I've spoken to said they don't actually consummate on the wedding night because they're so tired from the wedding day and all that kind of stuff.
They couldn't get the thing in the thing.
It was a bit hit and miss, you know. Had to go in there. But I know this is a controversial opinion, but I think I would if I was struggling within my marriage and we would
speak about it because marriage is for life.
Absolutely, we would definitely speak about it, but I'd also consider hiring a sex therapist as well.
Yeah, and that's something, you know. But some people will say, "You know what? Nobody in my business."
But listen,
are you going to suffer for the next couple of years and then potentially step out on your marriage because you're feeling I can't be fulfilled? Yeah. But if you had just taken the time, like the podcast that we watched with the guys, and you've taken your time, that it could be great.
Absolutely.
Now I've watched a podcast like that, hashtag Black Love. You can look them up there on Instagram. I don't think they do it anymore, but the episodes are still, you know, there. And this couple, the wife was a virgin. The husband, he had a few relationships. He was not in the streets. He didn't have all that many body counts.
Yeah.
But he had a few relationships, and she was so pure that, you know, on the night, you know, and he's telling her whatever, she could not conceptualize that has to go there now.
She wasn't paying attention in sex education.
She did not. No. She honestly says it like she was so, you know, doing what innocent. The church told her, so innocent that so nothing happened. And when it finally did happen, it was just like, you know, she felt dirty. She felt all kind of way because it's like, how am I doing this thing? Because in your mind, you've been told, you know, you've been programmed basically. Don't do it. It's bad, whatever. But now that you've waited, that mindset is not just going to change overnight. No. And I think they said that they suffered through that, even though they had kids. They've suffered through that for like 5 years until eventually the husband, he really loved her because you know some men wouldn't be waiting
5 years of that. They'd be like, no, I'm not. I didn't sign up for this.
You know, so they were having sex, but it wasn't fulfilling. She was like, you know, she just did it because it's like basically something that you had to do.
Yeah, the wifely duty.
And so eventually they had a couple that they were close to, and he asked the wife, "Could you please speak to my wife?" And the other wife spoke to her, I think gave her a book to read, whatever, and they're like, listen.
Hallelujah! Fireworks!
It's like, it's on and popping now. It's on and popping. But
that's it, because I think
it took time.
It would, and I think this is why you've got to have the right person, and you've got to marry the right person who is willing to go through it with you, because you can't have somebody that's impatient or wants to just be so self-gratified that they're not willing to work through it with you. But there has to be an element of vulnerability as well. You know, if you go to a sex therapist or a counselor or anything like that, it's not that person's going to chat your business, but you've got to know, I want this to be better. I want to be able to please my husband, and I want him to please me. So help me to know what I need to do. And that podcast that you sent me that we watched, he said, you know, the marriage bed is undefiled. The Bible says the marriage bed is undefiled. So try everything once. If it's something you don't like, then you don't do it again. No, I'm not. Why are you trying to put that there? But at least you tried it. At least you gave it a try. Do you know what I mean? So that is definitely what we do. I mean, that is a big, big topic. So we may have to come back to that in the future. But one of the final things that I think we should just speak about, when it's not what you expected, when the weight isn't what you expected, is those people who may struggle to have children. So I know I've said it a number of times, when you have your view of marriage, and not everybody wants children after marriage, so I take that, but there are some women and men who want to get married, and they see it, and once we get married, we'll have the family, we'll have the children, and then we'll do this and we'll do that, and then unfortunately, for whatever reason, the children don't come, and it's once again, it's something that's really unfulfilled within their life. I mean, not that we can't speak to it and say that we understand or know your pain, because we obviously haven't been in that position or situation, but we can definitely empathize with how difficult it must be when you've planned that this is what your life is and what it's going to be, and then that doesn't happen for you.
So in the wait, that's one of the things you're thinking about. You're having kids. I'm not having any before marriage. I'm following what the Bible says, you know, what my family. And then you get married. And sometimes some people can't have children, not because of the fault of either party. Because I know of a couple that wife checked out fine, husband checked out fine, but they just could not have any kids. They weren't compatible.
Yeah, because that's it. Biologically, you cannot be compatible for those types of things.
In some cultures, they actually do a test.
Wow.
And I know of a friend who told me of another friend that she knows that they didn't bother go through with the marriage because from the test, they would not have been able to have children. That was one couple, and then the next one, they didn't go through with it because the kids would have sickle cell.
Okay.
And they didn't want to do that to the children. So it's a lot of things. So I mean, people with money, we've seen a lot of celebrities. I mean, even the Christian celebrities now are open with it, surrogacy and all that stuff. And so it's like, would you do that though?
Surrogacy?
Yeah.
I would ask somebody else to have a baby for me. If I couldn't, I would. Listen, this is a topic in itself, but I have been considering, I like in vitro fertilization, artificial insemination, where I get a nice young man's sperm and have a baby that way, because I'm getting on in age, and the man isn't here. So that is something that we will need to speak about on another podcast, because I know
would somebody be saying, but Sister Andrina, you're not patient in your
there
wait.
You go. Am I not waiting on God? Am I taking matters into my own hands? Am I raising
Is that his true plan for you?
Am I raising a child without a father? There are so many elements. Is this really God's will?
Podcast?
So that's going to be an episode that we will definitely talk about. And I think what I love about this podcast is that we're asking the questions and we're having the conversations. We're not pretending that we know the answers or that we can tell you that it should be this way. We're just opening up the conversation.
And we're hoping that you are having that conversation with somebody as well. Like, I agree with what Tasha and Andrina said. Well, actually, I don't agree. But it's conversations that must be had.
They really need to be had. So
that we're not wandering around blindly.
No, absolutely.
We can't keep doing that.
But back to the children issue. If you've got money and you're rich, then you might be able to have babies later on. Naomi Campbell's just had a baby not long ago.
Stop it.
54. Had a second boy.
No, my love.
So, but
that's retirement time.
That is retirement
time.
I'm
outside. I'm on a cruise at that time.
But it is possible. But we do know that there are people who are struggling, and for them the pain is just because whenever I moan about being single and I say I want to have more children, I am reminded that I may get married and I may not be able to have any more children. I
thought about that one day. That I have my 2 kids and both of them were like, surprise, especially the last one. The second one, I almost ended up on the episode. I didn't know I was pregnant. But I thought about it. Wouldn't it be something that I get married and know that I'm ready to have a child? It don't happen. Wouldn't it be something?
These are things that people are really, really going through and really experiencing. So, we always have to be open-minded. Obviously, we don't get into things with a negative mindset or a negative view or it's going to be bad. You get into it and you really hope and pray for the best, but you've got to recognise that sometimes, not even sometimes, in life things don't go the way that we've planned. Never. You could have the best marriage possible, but you're still going to have challenges that you have to work through, aren't you? So, so that is us. Please like, comment.
Plug in the topic like that book, The Wait.
The Wait. When the wait,
every page was The Wait.
When the wait isn't what you expected. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really would love to read your comments, hear what you think. Let us know. Give us a shout out. Let us know. Like, comment, subscribe.
Hit us up.
Yeah, and definitely. And if you've got some topics that you think we should be talking about, let us know, because we love a hot topic.
It's good conversation.
And it is the podcast where we say what we know you're thinking. So thank you for joining us on Faith, Grit and Grace. God bless, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Wow.